We're really upgraded. It's good. It's gonna come out so good this episode, and we have new tricks. We have new everything.
Look at this. It even says actual recording in higher quality. Wow.
Wow.
It feels very special. We upgraded our internet.
Yes.
Thank you very much to whoever invented this. Al Gore.
With Al Gore. Oh my God.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Gore.
That is
you always said the Rebbe said that technology was invented.
That's right.
To do this.
To do this. So
this is what we were meant to do.
That's right.
This is what we were meant to do.
With so many hard things happening for the Jewish people around the world, at least our internet is better. I feel like it's a bright spot in a pretty dark, dark time.
Yes,
that's right.
But
more internet, fewer beepers.
There you go. There you go.
I can't wait for the movie to come out about that. Anyway, this week we are going to, because we're in high holiday season, and hopefully you listened to our Rosh Hashanah episode and learned a lot from that and got some good insight. We're going to spend our time today talking about Yom Kippur and the Day of Atonement, which is, as everybody knows, the holiest day of the year. Most Jews, even if they barely know anything, most people know about Yom Kippur, which we'll get into why and how and all of that. But Jay figured out how to embed video and audio, so I think he's excited to share something with my father. So what do you want to share with us?
I'm excited both because I figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty funny.
Okay, go for it.
So, all right. So this is a video rabbi. I think I have a new marketing campaign for Shul by the Shore.
Ooh,
okay.
So I'm going to play this video. So the guy in this video is a guy named Pat Beverly. So this is a Barstool Sports video. Pat Beverly, he played in the NBA for maybe like 12 years or so. Now he plays in the Israel Professional League.
Really? Pat Beverly went over to Israel.
You've heard of him? You know who he is?
Sure, I've heard of Pat Beverly.
Wow.
Sure,
I'm impressed.
He was a very, very energetic player. Very energetic.
Yes. So let me play this video here.
Okay.
Saturday. So Shabbat starts on Friday. Sunrise, sunset. No, sunset to sunset, like that. As soon as sunset on Friday, they can't answer phones. They can't start car, anything with electricity they can't do. But if I was to go to one of my teammates' house, if I was to go to Bar House and I'm like, hey, yo, pass me the remote control, I'm going to turn on the TV. I can turn on the TV, but they can't, and they can't be like, hey, Pat, can you turn on the TV? But I can come there and turn it on TV and it'd be okay.
So you go turn on the TV, they're like, oh my God, thank God. We were waiting all day for someone to turn on TV.
If you're super religious, then some people are like, no, turn it off. But no phones. You're with your family, sunset to sunset. You play board games. You eat with your children. You with your wife. You with your mom. You with your dad. No electronics, no driving cars, no leaving the house. That's pretty dope. You think about it.
He gets
it. Excellent.
So I think we have the new Shul by the Shore marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Shabbat. It's pretty dope when you think about it.
That's it. Said by Patrick. Couldn't say it better myself. Thanks, Pat.
It's a good tagline. Hashtag. What is it?
That's right.
Shabbat. Pretty dope. If you think about it. Yeah. I like it. We should make a commercial with that.
Oh, wow.
That's so funny. But he really gets it, actually. Like he said, he explains it well.
Yeah, the only thing is, I mean, it's you can leave the house.
Well, right. That's true.
He got excited there.
Yeah.
I know. No, you can't leave the house. I mean, if I couldn't leave the house, I
know. I wouldn't say call him with your halachic questions about Shabbat, but he gets the spirit of it, I think.
It's good. It's good.
Exactly. So Shabbat, it's pretty dope when you think about it.
Well, it's a good segue because Yom Kippur actually is called the Shabbat of Shabbats. So I think it's an appropriate introduction.
Like the dope of dopes.
That's right.
Is that the dope of dopes?
The dope of dopes.
So Yom Kippur is like if Shabbat is dope, this is the dopiest.
That's right.
Of all holidays.
That's right. And that's what it says, right? It's the Shabbat of Shabbats.
Shabbat, yeah.
And it even supersedes
all that money that I spent in the Hebrew Academy is
it paid off.
Back to repay me. Oh, great.
Oh my God. No, I mean, Shabbat, is Yom Kippur supersedes Shabbat in many ways. And so not in all ways, I guess, but in many ways. And so we'll get into that. But this is a solemn day, and we're giving you an opportunity to try out some of your sermon material on us, so that those of us who won't be in the room, maybe can get some of your wisdom. But obviously we'll start with some questions, and we'll go from there. So I don't know, Jay, do you want to start? Do you have any?
Yeah, so I'll start for sure. Okay. But one comment first. So Yom Kippur has taken on an entirely new importance, because on top of being the Day of Atonement, it was also the day that your dad was introduced to me.
That's true.
As part of his sermon.
That is true. That's true.
I've told the story again this week.
Oh my God!
Just this week.
Did you?
Your favorite story?
It's one of the greatest stories. I mean, what are the chances? I mean, come on. What are the chances?
I know.
That I would read an article. It would affect me to the point where I actually read it.
I know.
In your show, and then to find out that this author. And then, but then I was skeptical because it wasn't the same name.
Oh my God! Shocking.
And then it turns out that it's Jay. I mean,
turn of events. I know.
So it was,
last year you quoted him, so maybe this year I'll get some airtime from you. Maybe you'll talk about me.
There is a slight chance. Slight chance of rain.
I'll slip you some ideas. You can say
it's probably some. It's probably some.
Let me put it this way: if you wrote the same article and said at 10 years old that you realized you didn't have a dad, it would really hurt me.
That's a good point.
It would really, really hurt me. I probably wouldn't use that.
What if I said at 44 I realized I could have had a better dad? I could have had a better dad. I could have had Bill Cosby.
I don't know. I'd have to call the other kids in to testify on my behalf that I was a good dad.
That's true.
I'm sure there's some Ask a Jew highlights that you could cut together for me. You could include
That's
a sermon.
True. That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. What do you want to talk about?
So Yom Kippur is a Day of Atonement, and so I guess let's just start there. What is Yom Kippur? Is there anything about Yom Kippur that you think people misunderstand or don't know about the holiday that they should, beyond the things that people commonly associate with Yom Kippur?
I think the number one misconception is that it's really heavy. I'm not saying it's not a heavy holiday. It is a heavy holiday, but it's not as dour as we make it. People are like afraid on Yom Kippur, the day of judgment. I'm going to stand up in front of a court. The court is going to judge me. Up in heaven, there's no lying. I mean, you can lie here in a courtroom, and you can lie to your parents, and you can lie everywhere. But up there's no lying, So people are afraid, and I think that this is actually a hopeful holiday. Yom Kippur is a hopeful holiday where you do what you do, you make amends. That's part of it. But I think you say to yourself, this is a new beginning. You know what? Whatever happened in the past, I'm letting go. And what I need to repair, I'm going to repair. And I'm hopeful that this new year is going to bring a lot of joy and happiness to me. So I view this as a great starter, where people tend to think this is the end. Oh no, you know what? God's going to give me like a bad verdict, and I'm going to walk around the whole year like with a rain cloud over my head. And I think that's a wrong attitude to take. I think Yom Kippur is a hopeful day. It's a new day. It's a new beginning. You can scratch whatever happened. And too many people drag around too much baggage from the year before. And I find that on Yom Kippur, it's a great day to let go. Just cut that cord, baby, because that's not doing you any good. Whatever you're carrying around with you from the year before is not doing you any good. If you want to succeed in anything, you want to have a good relationships, you want to get a better job, you want to get, you want to, whatever, even if you're retired, Yom Kippur is a perfect day to get going, to start and not to end.
It's interesting. I was just having this conversation with my wife today about regret, about things that happen with people, especially people once they've passed away. About you always tend to highlight the negative things. Like those are, for some reason, for people, those are the things that stick with you. It's not the old lady you helped across the street. It's the fact that, you didn't lend her your coat too. Right. It's like, right. It's those negative things. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's the negative things that stick with people? I think it's a
personality trait. I think it's really a personality trait, because many people, they want to just, justify why they're not doing as good as they thought they can do. So the easiest way to do that is to find victimhood. Oh, you know what? I could have, I should have, I ought to have. If Bill Gates would have been my father, I could have been much further ahead in life than I am now. And if I would have, been 6'7", I could have, done this. So I think it's a mechanism of trying to kind of justify why you're not as the best that you can possibly be, because all around us is, and especially if you're looking on TikTok and Instagram and other places, and everyone's living this tremendous life, and you're not. So you get into a negative frame of mind. And when you get into that negative frame of mind, it becomes more and more difficult to shed that skin, and it becomes your safe place. So that's why I think a lot of people end up in that dark room. And it's all a matter of decisions. In life, there's a lot of things that happen to us that we don't decide upon. I mean, God forbid if your parents get divorced at a young age. It's not nothing you could do about it. I mean, there's the circumstances that were handed to you. Now, how you deal with that, that's totally up to you. That's totally up to you. So you can go into this dark place and say, hey, look at me. I mean, circumstances are just, everything. It's so funny because I just had this conversation an hour ago with someone that called the office and we're asking about services, and they just keep telling me over and over again that, oh my gosh, I just have a bad cloud on my head, a bad cloud. And I kept saying, no, you're not. And she tells me that her uncle, and this is just fantastic, that her uncle told her that she was born under a bad star. That's it. She was born under a bad star, and there's nothing that she could do about it. And I told her that's absolutely false, unequivocally false. No one is born under a bad star. Some people maybe get lucky. I mean, you could say that. And, we are born to two wonderful parents. Some maybe are unlucky, but even in the circumstances, dire circumstances, we know people that have excelled under the harshest circumstance that you can imagine. So I think that ultimately Yom Kippur is a matter of decision making. You can wake up on Yom Kippur morning and you could go into that dark spot and say, you know what, I didn't achieve even a tenth of what I could have done this past year, and do it that way. Or you could wake up Yom Kippur morning and say, look, I'm going to shul. I'm going to spend some time there. I'll pray a little. I'll listen to the rabbi a little. But what most is important to me is I'm going to make a decision and a resolution that this is going to be a day that I'm going to take, that I'm going to restart my batteries. And what happened last year, I'm just going to let go. I'm not going to let go of the good things. It means, like this podcast, which we started last year, we're not going to let go of it. It's a good thing that we have going, and we're going to continue to grow and keep it going. Some of the negative things of last year, you just got to cut the cord. You got to cut. Life is short, and and there's just no time to spend on regrets because there's nothing you can do about it. Right. I mean, you didn't get into Harvard, so now look at the people that did get into Harvard. You think they're happy? Just look
That's
at
a bad example this year.
Miserable. But a lot of people do regret that.
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't get into Harvard, or I didn't get into medical school, so I ended up as a lawyer and all that. So what? The world certainly doesn't care.
Right.
Then there's only two people that care. You know who that is? No and Buddy. Right. Nobody. That's the only one. That's the only one that care about your misery. So, for the same money that you're miserable, the same money you could be hopeful. And you could be optimistic. And I think a part of Yom Kippur is that optimism, to say to ourselves, look, you know what? Look what the Jewish people have gone through. And, we're resilient. Israel is going to make it. We're resilient. The Jewish community in America is going to make it. And I'm going to make it. And how much does that cost? Nothing.
Let's take a step back before we continue with more of the philosophical questions.
Sure,
But I think
sure.
it's important to note, like, first of all, Yom Kippur is a biblical holiday, right? It's mentioned in the Torah, and in the Torah, is it referred to as like it is the Day of Atonement in the Torah, correct?
Yes.
So God,
and it's a day that we do, like, what's called v'nisem es nashosechem. You should make your life difficult.
Right. Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
On that day. On that day. So how do you make your life difficult? So that's already explained in the Talmud, that there's 5 inuyim, 5 restrictions that we have on Yom Kippur. The most famous ones, of course, are the fasting.
Right.
So there's no eating, no drinking, no showering, no anointing, the perfume, no deodorant. We don't wear leather shoes because in the ancient times, leather shoes were a comfort. So we don't wear leather shoes, and there's no intimacy. So those restrictions are on Yom Kippur because it is a day of inuyim. It's a day of restrictions for us and to make our life just a little bit less comfortable.
Right.
But that's only to put you in a state of mind.
Right.
It's not the main thing. The main thing is not the fasting. Fasting is important and you should fast. But fasting is only giving you an opportunity to spend more time reflecting than thinking, okay, what am I going to eat for lunch?
Right.
Or what am I going to have for breakfast? Or, I got to take a shower. All of these things. So I think those restrictions that we have on Yom Kippur were given to us kind of, number one, to reflect, and number two, to really appreciate. Those are the things that we do have. I remember, ChayaLeah, you remember Sid Shulman. He was an elder man in our congregation, and Sid always prided himself on saying that he's an atheist.
Yeah.
Doesn't really believe in God. But when I asked him, why does he come to Shul on Yom Kippur? So he said he fasts on Yom Kippur once a year just to feel what many people feel every day. He wanted to get that feeling, the hunger that people around the world, he wanted to empathize with them. I mean, I never thought of it, that way. But here was a man who was a wealthy person, could have afforded himself 4 breakfasts if he wanted to on Yom Kippur, but decided that, even when he was getting older, he still tried to fast as much as he possibly could because he had a heart. And his heart was dictating to him that I need to do this because this is how people feel every day of the year around the world. I mean, that was a very heavy statement. Yeah. That was a very powerful statement, to hear. But again, people mistake the fasting, for the main thing. It's not the main thing. The fasting is part of Yom Kippur, and it's important, and it should be done. But it's only it's an opportunity again for the decision making, for the idea that we need to come out of Yom Kippur stronger with more gratitude.
So the fast, I mean, just to clarify one thing, like the fast starts at sundown or a little bit before sundown.
Correct.
This year it's going to be on a Friday, and it ends after sunset on Saturday night. So it's actually about 25 hours.
25 to 26 hour fast.
Right. And there's no eating, and there's no drinking, and there's not even water. And even people, I'm not a rabbi, so I don't want to say this, but if you take medicine or whatever, you have to deal with your own rabbi and doctor.
The only time that you can break the fast is under circumstances of life and death.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to starve and you're about to pass out, then I think that you can eat something.
Right. Well,
that takes precedence.
I'll just say this quickly, and then I'll let Jay ask questions. But I just because I like to brag about this, but I had a baby 3 days before Yom Kippur 15 years ago, and I remember asking you, what should I do? Should I fast or not? Because I've never not fasted, even when I was pregnant with my other kids over Yom Kippur. I always fasted, even when I was pregnant. And you said to me, do your best. And if you feel like you really can't, because obviously I was, postpartum, few days postpartum, then you can break it. And actually I fasted the whole thing, and I didn't break it, and I didn't drink, and I felt fine, actually. Wow. So I'm just putting it out there that you can do hard things, even if you feel like you can't.
You know what? One of the things, and just a thought, and then in the United States of America, one of the words that we never use is sacrifice.
Yeah.
Americans have no clue what this word means. Because when I say to American, what do you ever sacrifice?
Right.
What is asked of us? And the person looks at me and says, no, why? No. I mean, the biggest sacrifice is going shopping with your wife on Sunday so you don't watch 3 football games. You only watch 2 football games. So the one early game or the late game, you'll go shopping. That's your sacrifice, but we don't know what this means, sacrifice. But religion asks of us to sacrifice. We don't have to do what Abraham did to Isaac.
Right.
I mean, thank God we're not asked to do that. But fasting on Yom Kippur is a sacrifice. It is pushing yourself. It's not easy.
Not comfortable,
and,
right.
And something it's hard,
Yeah.
and you're going to be hungry, and you're going to be thirsty, and you may get a headache.
Right.
But you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's a sacrifice. That once in a while you can do that.
It's a great way
And
to say it.
strengthens our resolve,
Yeah.
not weakens our resolve. I know a lot of people in our show, even they're not religious, they're not Orthodox, fast on Yom Kippur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because it's something you can do.
That's right.
I was just reading something about Louis Brandeis, who, if you don't know, is the first Jewish Supreme Court justice, and then closely followed by Felix Frankfurter, who was the second. And they were, especially Frankfurter was a very devout Orthodox Jew, and he was talking about sort of the weighing of individual liberties that are granted to Americans and the sacrifice for community, and how you weigh those things, not necessarily as a judge, because obviously those things aren't relevant in his role as a judge, but
Sure.
just conceptually, you come to a place like America where that's founded on individual liberty, but coming from a place like an Orthodox Jewish community where community is so central to everything, and being part of a community is, about sacrifice in your personal liberties in some way, and sort of, weighing those things in how you live your life, and those when they are opposed sometimes, but that the benefits of the sacrifice to the community very often outweigh just leveraging your individual liberties to their max at all times.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a choice you need to make.
For sure.
The government is definitely not going to coerce you into joining a community. You could live as a hermit and never talk to anybody. It's perfectly legal here. And even if you join a community, you have to be one of those people that is willing, like you said, Jay. You have to be willing to sacrifice. I mean, we need people that are going to accompany our 5th graders on a trip to Sacramento. Who wants to sit on a bus from Los Angeles to Sacramento?
I
with
did
5th
it.
grader?
I did it for Shimshin.
Oh, here she goes again. I mean, it's so consistent. Anything you didn't do? Were you part of the first moon landing?
Yes.
She's trying to.
ChayaLeah.
She's implanting the ideas for your sermon. She's putting all these ideas in your head.
Okay, fine. ChayaLeah went on a trip to Sacramento, and she chaperoned the trip.
Yes,
Yay.
I did for
Yay.
Shimshin, my third son.
Here, 1 second. I'm going to make you a button. I'm going to hit the medal now.
Oh my God!
No, but I think the bigger point I was making is that people, I think of the word sacrifice as strictly a negative,
right?
But that by sacrificing,
totally,
you get a lot out of
totally
out of sacrifice.
You can't succeed in life without sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's done anything successful knows what sacrifice means.
That's right.
We often talk about sports analogies. You want to make it in the sports world, you are going to sacrifice, my friend.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to every wedding. You're not going to go to every party. You're not going to go to every dance. You're not going to go to every, everything. You are going to be where everybody is out there, singing and having a good time. And you're out there pitching, or you're out there running, or you're out there doing, exercising. So every time you do something successful is going to demand sacrifice. And Yom Kippur is part of that. You want to be a successful human being and a good human being and live a meaningful life. Part of Judaism is sacrificial.
Yeah.
And this is what Yom Kippur, part of it is, to do that, to push yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the you said that the restrictions are meant to be, a way for us to feel deprived of whatever, so that we think, think more about our world. But I think one of the ways we were taught about Yom Kippur was more of like being angels for the day, where we get this opportunity to be on like a level of loftiness that we wouldn't necessarily be the other, days of the year. And we reach that, feeling by restricting food and drink, and some people will wear white and, all this kind of stuff. Like, where does that idea come from?
Well, that kind of like white has always been like the color of cleanliness. So God says, through the prophets that, if you sin, and your sins are red, I will turn it to white. So white has been the color of forgiveness. So, we come into Shul, we want to have a clean year. And there comes in the color of white. We wear a special garment called a kittel. It's white. It also kind of represents tachrichim, which are shrouds, to remind us that, we're not far off. Take advantage of your day today, right? Because you never know when that shroud, comes around. And of course, like you said, it's kind of angelic in a sense, where we want to live a much more spiritual day than we would on an average day. So they're not eating, they're not drinking, the shoes, all of these things, gear us and push us to this idea of more spiritual, less material, less mundane, so more holiness. So absolutely, that's where it comes from.
It's interesting because I think the kittel, which is like a white long garment that's belted, the men wear it over their black coats or whatever.
Right.
It really, for me, is such a visual symbol of the day. And it's like when I walk into synagogue, or when we're leaving the house even, and my husband and is getting ready, like when I see that kittel, it's almost like setting me up for Yom Kippur. It takes my breath away in a way. Like I feel the holiness of the day when I see that, because it's just a very rich symbol of loftiness that usually you're all in black. It's really interesting. Like Hasidic men and all Orthodox men really will wear like a dark suit on Shabbat or long black coat. And then you come to Shul on Yom Kippur and all the men are wearing these long white garments. It's just, it's very visually stimulating in a way. And I appreciate it. And we didn't have the custom growing up that the women wear white. That's like a custom that other communities have. But there is something beautiful about looking out in Shul on Yom Kippur and it's a sea of white. It really, I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I appreciate it. And it means something to me.
I think it's an excellent point. It's a really good point, because again, it's this idea of, over the year, you may have stained your soul.
Yeah.
You did something wrong, you got a stain on your soul. And Yom Kippur is like the ultimate washing machine. Like you just throw it in, and next thing you know, your garment is, wow. I mean, I can't believe how white it is.
Yeah.
How clean it is. So the same thing is true with the kittel, that you come in and you feel a certain sense of loftiness while you're wearing it. I mean, you're like you said, you look around the shul and everybody is wearing the white, and everybody is feeling a little bit more detached from the outside world and much more in tune with what's going on Yom Kippur. And it really is something special. Yeah. It is something, because I think we'll do maybe another podcast on how clothes makes the man.
Yeah.
We always say that, clothes makes the man. So what, if you're wearing
that
something,
would be interesting.
and
yeah, absolutely.
Well, right is atonement.
So ChayaLeah, you mentioned earlier that Yom Kippur is a biblical holiday. So Rabbi, could you explain where it comes from in the Bible and the story behind it?
So like many of the holidays, it's given. We kind of can track it back to, I think we once talked about a timeline of Moses, giving the Torah to the Jewish people, going up to the mountain for 40 years. I'm sorry, for 40 days.
I was like, oh my God, talk about sacrifice.
Yeah. It said to him, it felt like 40 years.
Yeah.
It was only 40 days, but it felt to me like 40 years. Then he comes down, he breaks the tablets. He spends the next 40 days pleading with God for forgiveness. God forgives the people. Moses comes back on the mountain, writes the second set of tablets, and then brings them down on Yom Kippur. So that day has always been like attached to forgiveness, second opportunities. But salachti kidvarecha, God says, I will forgive them according to your words. You've asked me to do that, and this will be a day that will forever be remembered, that if you really care about me and care about my relationship, you will use this opportunity to ask for forgiveness. Hashem, please, you're kind and you're merciful. All the prayers that we do on Yom Kippur. Please, I'm only a human being, and I've done things, maybe not that I'm not so proud of. So today is a wonderful day to do it. And then, of course, once the holidays are given, God says on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is Yom Kippur, should be for you a day of atonement, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, that this is a day that you are going to use, and that I am going to also use for forgiving you, and you forgive each other and forgive me, and then we're all going to start the next day, brand new. Now, when the temple stood, the main service of the day was the high priest. So biblically, that day was dedicated primarily to the service of the high priest, where in the temple there was a room called the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, where no one was allowed to enter except for one day on Yom Kippur, and only by the high priest. No one else could enter it. If someone else entered it, it was the ultimate gong show. Goodbye, clunk, and he was gone. All right? So on this day, the high priest had an incredibly difficult service. I mean, from the morning till the evening, he was totally,
changing
busy,
clothes, going in and out of the mikvah,
5 times, because he was the representative of the Jewish people to ask for atonement.
So it was like a collective. It was like a collective atonement.
Correct. Okay. He brought sacrifices for his family
on behalf of everyone.
He brought sacrifices for the Jewish people. There was a goat that was designated to the Lazazel that unfortunately would be sacrificed in the desert for the sins of the people. So he really was the representative of the Jewish people for atonement purposes. And he went into the Holy of Holies, did a service there, brought in some incense, sprinkled some blood. Then he had to go back in to take the vessels out. So he had a very, very busy day. Post. Can
I ask you a question before you continue?
Sure.
Sure. I always wondered this, and I never asked. What were the Jews doing while the Kohen was doing all that?
Were standing outside on the Temple Mount.
Oh, they were all gathered?
They were standing on, they all were gathered, and they stood on the Temple Mount. I mean, those that came to Jerusalem stood on the Temple Mount. The priests a little closer, the Levites a little further out, the Jews a little bit further out, and they paid attention to what he did. So that when he came in and he went out in peace and in with tranquility, everyone erupted because they realized that God is going to forgive them. So they danced and they sang, and and then it was quite the ceremony there. But now, of course, the temple is not around anymore. So post 70, after the destruction, it became much more personal. The atonement becomes much more personal, where and then until later on, a few centuries later, the Machzor, the Yom Kippur liturgy was established, and then Jews gathered in synagogue to say, and then some things were added and some things were deleted, and and then of course, until we come to the present day, we have a 400-page book. To go through.
Not exaggerating.
Not exaggerating. This is the Yom Kippur Machzor.
Exactly.
Anybody interested?
That was actually going to be one of my questions about the difference in the ceremony after the destruction of the Second Temple.
Sure.
Well, was it different? Sorry, I'm interrupting again, but was it different first and second temple? Because I mean, during the first temple, isn't it true that the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, was there for longer, right? They would be, they would be there for years and years, sometimes up to 40 years. And so that meant 80. That, 80, exactly, 80 years. So that meant that the Kohen Gadol was going into the Holy of Holies, year after year and getting forgiven and coming out. But the high priests wore a garment that had pomegranates, like copper.
Bells.
Was it copper or
bells.
like bells?
Bells on the bottom.
Bells on the bottom of their garment, so that you could hear them when they were walking around. And if a high priest was not forgiven, they would die in the Holy of Holies, and their bodies had to be dragged out. And they would know that because they wouldn't hear the bells on the bottom of their clothes. True. And so did that happen only in the second temple, or did that also happen
frequently? Happen much more frequently.
Oh, okay.
So if you were not up to snuff, meaning that you were not as pure as you portrayed yourself to be, or there was a blemish on you,
right.
you didn't make it.
Right.
You didn't make it. So I think in the first temple there was maybe 8 high priests, something like that, and in the second temple there was hundreds.
Right, because every year
high
they would.
priests.
Right.
Because a lot of them were sadducees. You just didn't make it.
Yeah.
You just didn't make it. It was a whole different world. During the second temple era. I mean, and again, the second temple era also started already. You already had synagogues where people had gathered to pray. First temple era, we don't.
Right, people were living in the diaspora. Yeah, it was different.
People living in the diaspora, so it was already a very different kind. Service.
Yeah.
In the second temple, but still, even in the second temple era, everything was kind of geared towards that.
Yeah.
The central focus of the temple. And today, it's a temple. But it's not the temple. It's
it
your
would be,
local temple.
It would be crazy if you prayed all Yom Kippur, and if your prayers weren't accepted, you just drop dead. And it would be every half the shoul's dead.
No, you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want
that's
that.
Too bad.
No, you wouldn't want that.
What a way to go out.
That would be
terrible.
If your forehead projected of what you were thinking.
I know.
You wouldn't want that because you'd be wearing a hat all day.
That's so true.
You wouldn't want that to happen. Trust me. Today, you can.
Good point.
So
you'll get away with it.
So the night before the holiday is called Kol Nidre.
Correct.
What is the importance of Kol Nidre, and where does that come from?
So Kol Nidre is a prayer, just like we had talked before, that we start with a new beginning. It is actually a technical prayer that says that all of the vows, every promises, guarantees that I said over the year shall be nullified. So if I made a promise, I want it nullified. If I made a vow, I want it nullified. If I want anything, I want it nullified. I didn't mean it. And if I meant it, I forget about it. So it's a very, very technical prayer. The reason why we use this technical prayer is because you want to start anew. You don't want any baggage coming with you. So if I promised, I made a vow that I'm not going to eat any vegetables the upcoming year, I want that vow annulled.
Yeah.
That's a valid prayer. Actually,
that's a very valid prayer.
There's no complaining about that one.
No, yeah. So so that's the technicality of it. The technicality. That's why we do it, because we want to start fresh. We want everything to be clear and clean when we go into the new year. We want to have a clean slate. The common idea of why Kol Nidre took on this tremendous significance is because during the time of the Spanish Inquisition, it was said and read by people that really had tremendous difficulties and suffering. They were living lives of Catholics on the outside, but being privately Jewish. So you can imagine what Kol Nidre meant to them, that everything that I was doing on the outside is a lie.
Right.
It's an absolute lie. And we want all of that to be annulled. So everything that I said, everything that I did, everything that I promised, all my commitments that I made while I was living this lie as a Catholic, I want it annulled. So, to those people, Kol Nidre took on tremendous significance. So once already that happened and it caught on, and then you add that to the solemnness of the holiday itself, and then you add on to that these haunting tunes that cantors came up with, you add everything together, you have yourself a very, very powerful. But the prayer itself, when you read it, is not powerful. It's right. I have it right here.
It's like every promise I made, everything I said.
It's like a preview for upcoming attractions for everybody.
All vows, self-imposed prohibitions, oaths, consecrations, restrictions, interdictions, or any other equivalent expressions of vows, which we may vow, swear, dedicate, or prescribe for ourselves from this Yom Kippur to next Yom Kippur, which comes to us for good, We regret them all are hereby absolved, remitted, canceled, declared, null and void. This is not exactly like a very, a
emotional
prayer. This is something you would say in front of the Fifth Circuit.
Yeah.
It sounds very pro forma. It's sort of,
but interestingly, just prior to the Kol Nidre, there is a small little introduction. This is interesting because what we read there is that this is not around in all machzor, so this may be in Chabad, but most Orthodox machzor have this. With the sanction of the omnipresent and with the sanction of the congregation, by the authority of the heavenly tribunal and by the authority of the earthly tribunal, we hereby grant permission, and listen to the last words, to pray with those that have transgressed. That last sentence with the lispal ima varyonim, to pray with those who have transgressed, that was specifically referring to the Moranos at one point, because these were transgressors. I mean, they lived there and they went to church.
Right.
They took absolution.
Right.
They did all of these things. And so when you read this, that we are standing here tonight and we are asking with the sanction of God that we are allowed to pray with these people. Think about what it meant to those people.
That's
to us,
beautiful.
it's okay. Those who have transgressed, fine, in a room full of people. But to people that live this dual life, what that meant, that we are here sitting with them and praying together for those who have transgressed. And then you go into the Kol Nidre. That is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
There was just to talk about the Kol Nidre just for a second, there was a powerful story with one of the great what do we call philosophers, and what was his name? He wrote the Star of Israel. I want to tell the story, but now I can't even remember his name.
It will come to you while you're driving home.
He lived in the early part of the 20th century in Germany, and there was tremendous pressure to assimilate and to convert. And he was kind of thinking about it, and even had made a decision that he was going to convert because he thought that, for his career, for his family, this was going to be something that he was going to do. And then there's fine. But he said to himself, you know what I'm going to do? It's near the high holiday season. I'm going to go to Shul one last Yom Kippur, and I'm going to give it one more shot. If I just have a feeling, I'm going to do it. If not, I'm out.
Levinas?
What?
Was it Levinas?
No, it wasn't Levinas.
Okay.
I'll find it in a second.
Okay, what happened? Sorry.
So he comes there and he listens to Kol Nidre, and the chazan is a powerful chazan, and it gets to his
cantor,
soul. The cantor, and it gets to his soul, this haunting prayer of Kol Nidre, even though it's very technical in nature, but it literally permeates him. I mean, literally goes right through him. And he gets up there and he says, what? What am I, nuts or something? What, am I crazy or something? I am definitely not converting. And not only am I not converting, he becomes a very traditional Jew from the Yom Kippur prayer. And, thank God we have the internet. So why don't you talk among yourselves for a second while
you look it up?
Just in case anybody listening doesn't know what a Marano is, it's Jews who were either underwent forced baptisms or underwent baptisms sort of willingly because they were so oppressed in societies that they lived in. Yeah. And then the Spanish Inquisition comes around under Ferdinand Isabella, I think.
Yes.
And then that's where you have Torquemada, who is, so these Jews that underwent either forced conversions or, semi-willing baptisms, even they're being questioned under the Spanish Inquisition about are they secret Jews still, even though they've underwent the humiliation of these forced baptisms.
That is correct.
And so that's what the Moranos were Jews who were living their lives under this forced baptism.
Yeah. While my father's looking things up, I want to just say one thing about Erev Yom Kippur, which is the day before Yom Kippur, or like the day of Kol Nidre. So, for example, this year it starts Friday night. So the day of Friday it's a really interesting day also, because you're preparing yourself basically for this holy day. And it's a mitzvah to eat that day. Like you actually get credit for eating because you're actively engaged in preparing for Yom Kippur. And we have 2 meals that you're supposed to have 2 meals at least. I mean, obviously you could eat more than that, but 2 like official meals where you sit down and have, we have challah, we have soup. You try to eat food that like will sustain you over the fast. So a lot of carbs and chicken and protein that will, keep you less hungry. And we drink a lot. At least in the Orthodox world, all the men will go to the mikvah. And there's actually some women who don't usually go to the mikvah for whatever reason, like if they've stopped menstruating or they're not married. Many women will go to the mikvah on that day as well, so that they can come into the holiday sort of purified and clean. And so it's I think like the day of Yom Kippur is also the day before it feels holy that day. We also have a custom, not to get too into this, but we have a custom. I know people have asked me, so I'm going to mention it, but there's a custom called Kapparot, which is a ritual.
I was going to bring this up. I was looking forward to bringing this up.
Okay, good. Okay. So
thunder. That's okay. It's okay.
Sorry. I didn't know if you would ask us about it. But,
you don't think I was going to ask about this? Come on.
Can we go back to Franz Rosenzweig for
a second?
Franz
Rosenzweig, of course.
Go back to Franz Rosenzweig.
Of course.
Mystical experience
yes.
on Yom Kippur.
No, we're going to talk about Kapparot.
During Kol Nidre. So can we talk about him? Okay.
No, of course it was Franz Rosenzweig
was his name.
Okay.
You could look him up.
Yes.
You could look him up, but his life was transformed by Kol Nidre. Go ahead.
Yes.
Talk about Kapparos.
So there's a custom that is it a custom or a law? It's a custom, right?
It's a custom.
Okay, and
not everybody does it.
Right. But we do. Hasidim for sure do it.
We do, and
is it not in the code of Jewish law, or I don't know.
No.
Anyway,
so the code of Jewish law has been hugim.
Oh, right.
A lot of customs.
Right. Okay.
So this was instituted early on, many years ago in medieval times. Many of the codifiers objected to this service,
right.
But it was basically the idea where we want to absolve ourselves, and we took a live animal, preferably a chicken, and you kind of transferred your sins to the chicken.
Well,
that's kind of what this whole idea is. It's transforming. So you take the chicken, you make a little declaration that, whatever is wrong that I've done, I'd like it to go onto the chicken. And then you bring the chicken to the shochet, which is the slaughterer, and he kind of, shechs the chicken.
Yeah.
And it used to be the custom where you took the chicken home.
Right.
This was even done in my days when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And my mother flicked the chicken and cleaned the chicken, and we ate the chicken.
Right.
So we
it wasn't wasted. Yeah.
It wasn't wasted.
You don't
throw your chicken.
It's still not wasted. Right.
No, still not.
Today they take those.
That's the idea. Now it's only valid if you believe it.
Right.
I mean, if you believe that somehow you can take your sins and you ask God to transfer the sins to the chicken, and the chicken then goes, "Why me? Come on, what's wrong?"
But you skipped over one important step of
which is what?
The process, though.
What's that?
I feel like there's one step of the process that was
swinging
the swinging.
Yeah. Well, the custom is where you swing the chicken over your head.
I think the word swinging.
It's called the swinging chicken.
I know, but I think the word swinging is probably not the right word, because that sounds like we hold the chicken and we like do like that. That's not what we do. Usually you're holding the chicken nicely by the...
Yeah, usually you're not holding the
chicken. No, I will never touch it. Never. 44 years of life, I have never touched it. I will never. Someone holds it for me. And you hold the back, the wings. And you just very gently, you say a prayer, and very gently you move it over your head 3 times. That's what happens.
Correct.
And I want to just say...
So, just so it's clear, it's not swinging. It's moving. It's moving it. It's not swinging.
It's much better.
Totally.
It's
totally different thing.
It's
totally different thing.
Oh my God. Wait. It's done very gently. People have the wrong idea. But I do want to say one thing about it, and then you can talk about more of the spiritual side. But this is I know people are super uncomfortable with this, and there's a whole movement against it. Well, I'm going to get to that in a second. People are against it, and there's all these things. And I, for a while, was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's like, it is very weird. And you go to a chicken place and it smells and it's like the whole thing is awkward. And I was like, I'm never doing it again. But then PETA, the organization, people for the ethical treatments of animals, decided to target Orthodox Jews about this custom, okay, which is an ancient custom. And they started harassing my community. I mean, in very like problematic ways. In fact, my own children were doing this custom one year and leaving the place. The PETA members were out there screaming at my children, Nazi, you're Nazis, you're no better than the Nazis. When I saw that, I'm like, I'm going to do this mitzvah every single year now, because they are not going to take away a tradition that has meant something to my community for so long. It is not bad to the chickens. We eat chicken anyway all the time. Every chicken that's used, it goes to poor families now, or it goes to a yeshiva. Many yeshivas will take the chickens and use it for the students over the next few weeks. This is not, it's so, I find it anti-Semitic, even though some of them are Jewish, because they're literally targeting a custom that if any other people were doing, nobody would say a word. Like if any indigenous or native community had some kind of ritual like this, it wouldn't even be a big deal. It wouldn't be a big deal.
If any of the preferred communities were doing it, if you say anything about it,
you're exactly.
Then you'd be the one who's
now. The optics are weird, but like get over it. Just like get over it.
Religion by nature is weird.
That's true.
Okay, let's be honest. Religion by nature is weird.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another custom that we do called tashlich.
That's right.
Where prior to Yom Kippur, we go to a body of water, make a declaration, and then throw our sins in the water. Okay, that's better. Okay, so the fish, we're not catching the fish and eating them. Okay, but we're throwing our sins into the water. Yeah. So we bring bread and crackers and other stale things that you have around the house that you're not going to eat, and you throw it in the water. That's okay.
Right.
That secular Jews and progressives could get it correct. Not the throwing it into the bay.
Right.
Because that's polluting. But going to the body of water and praying, okay, that's okay. But taking a chicken and slaughtering it, which the chicken anyways is going to be slaughtered for food. You eat chicken.
Right.
So I'm sorry to tell you, I don't care how progressive you are, you're eating a dead chicken. Okay? If there's chicken on your plate, it was killed.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't talk it to death. Or you debate it to death. Okay, and it didn't.
ChayaLeah has tried. She has.
It didn't die in its sleep. So if you want to protest anybody, go to Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, exactly.
That kills millions of chickens a day.
Yeah.
A day they kill millions of chickens, and leave the 2 chickens that the Orthodox communities kill over the Yom Kippur period. But it's silliness. PETA is people for the ethical treatment of animals and not people. Mm-hmm. So there you go. So you'd rather treat an animal with gun.
But I do want to say one thing. If it is a hard and difficult thing to do for some people for many reasons. Okay, there are ways that you can do you can do it in different ways. You could do it with money you need. Sure, you could do it with money. You could do it in other ways. But I don't know. I'll tell you something really interesting that I don't know if people know this, but men use a male chicken and women use a female chicken, right? So when you're pregnant, you have to use 3 chickens because you have one for yourself, which is a female, and then you don't know what your child is, right? So you have to have a male and a female because it could be either of them. And so I know this is like a lot of detail, but it's just interesting that I find it like consistent, right? Like at least we're following through that if we believe, even though I've often had a lot of questions and I don't want to get into it right now because there's a lot more to talk about, but maybe one day we'll talk about why an unborn child needs, forgiveness, but I'll save that for another time. Will be a little, a teaser for another.
Why don't you go one step further?
Yeah.
I mean, since you brought that up.
Oh, when you have twins.
And if a mother has carrying twins, she needs 5 chickens.
It's true.
You don't know. Could be 2 males and 2 females. It could be 1 and 1. You need 5 chickens. If she's carrying triplets, you buy a farm.
Yeah.
You need,
the good thing for me is that because I'm the only female in my immediate family, because I have 4 sons and a husband, so they all get male chickens, and sometimes they've shared, but I get my own because I'm the only woman. So thank God. I do. That's what I was going to say. My poor chicken.
Well, you get your own for someone else to swing over your head for you.
That's true. I will not touch it.
So he's not a swinger.
Yeah, no.
This is what separates the community: the swingers to the non-swingers. And you know them in show.
Yeah.
Are you a swinger? No.
There's a family show, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I think your point about PETA, though, I think is a whole other interesting topic that you're never going to get anybody if you really want someone to change their ways and not just make a spectacle of yourself. No one has ever changed their opinions or their actions by being harangued and shamed into doing it like that, or the people that block highways, or the people that throw paint on paintings in museums. Like, nobody's ever changed their opinions. All it does is harden your opinions in those ways.
They think that, you know what, we're ashamed.
Yeah.
The Orthodox, we're not ashamed of it.
Right.
And they come to New York like, who cares? Like, who cares what you think?
Right.
I mean, we've proven over and over and over again that we just don't care what people think. If we want to wear black coats and black hats on a summer day when it's 95, that's what we're doing.
Right.
You know what? If we want to sit in a booth, you know, on Sukkot when it's raining, we're going to do that.
Right.
If we want to eat flatbread with the worst food ever on Pesach, and just for 3,000 years, we're going to do that. And no matter what you say, we're not going to up the ante. We're still going to eat that flatbread with haraisis and myrrh and all that stuff. So we just don't care.
Right.
And Peter doesn't get it. What do you mean you don't care? We don't care.
Yeah.
Put it on television so we'll say, I care.
Right. Right.
You know what? I don't care.
It's so freeing to feel that way, because I think so many Jews who don't have that kind of conviction, or you know, that the way they weren't educated in that way, it can feel so constricting, because you're so caught up in what everyone else thinks and what everyone else is saying about you.
And you know what?
It's so freeing not to care.
Let me tell you something.
I know what you're going to say. You've told me this a million times. Yeah.
A wise man once said, from 20 to 40, you worry what people think about you. From 40 to 60, you don't care what people think about you. And after 60, you realize that no one cared about you and no one thought about you. I mean, people have their own problems.
It's true.
You think they're going to see a guy who's swinging a chicken. Oh, he's a swinger. He's a swinger of chicken. I'm not inviting him to my party because he swung a chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, no one cares.
Right.
But like you say, ChayaLeah, we are so worried about what the Gentiles will think of us that we have to out-Gentile the Gentiles.
Right.
We gotta dress better. We got to speak better English. We have to go to better universities. They don't care.
Yeah.
You understand? The vast majority of Gentiles do not care what Jews do. They don't care.
Right.
That's it. End of discussion. You want to swing a chicken, swing a chicken.
And the ones who do care, you can never appease them anyway. So why are you trying?
They don't care.
Why are you
It's the
trying?
Jews.
Yeah.
It's the Jews that have this issue with themselves.
Yeah.
We walk around with such angst.
Yeah.
Oh, what are the Gentiles going to think about us? They don't care.
Right.
They don't care. You think they care if you go to a Reform or Conservative temple, or you're like that's the way?
Oh, like you're better. Yeah.
You're better, or you're a better person because you go to a Reform temple and you don't go to an Orthodox temple.
No.
They don't. Everybody has their own problems that they worry about.
The only Gentiles that care about what Jews are doing are all the Gentiles that are in Jewish Voices for Peace.
Exactly.
Those are the only Gentiles that care about what Jews are doing.
That's the only ones.
That's right.
That's the only small sliver of people that do that.
Correct.
But other than that, a guy in Arkansas cares that the Chabad guy in the backyard swings a chicken over his head.
No.
He probably does the same thing. I mean, I'm not judging him because he married his sister. Do I care that he married his sister? No, I don't care that he married his sister.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying that every summer. Don't get me wrong. We have a big presence in Arkansas.
Yeah, hundreds.
No, I better. No, but you know the joke that goes on this. So no one cares. I'm telling you, this is silly to think.
It's true.
To change because you know what people are going to say about you.
That's true.
So, are there any Yom Kippur traditions that are specifically American?
Interesting question.
Specifically American.
Probably I can think of one.
Designer sneakers.
Yeah.
Comes to mind.
I could think of another one.
So, they're not leather, but they're made of this fancy material that cost you $910.
Right.
That's probably American in nature, So I would say, put your leather $100 shoes on.
Yeah.
I'll
tell you another one. This whole concept of like a big break fast with, lox and bagels or whatever, there's like common lots of American Jewish families is very American, I think, because most Orthodox Jews and traditional Jews in the past, you're in synagogue all day. The last thing you're doing is hosting a dinner party after the fast. Like most people go home and eat whatever leftovers they had from the day before. So
don't forget, a lot of progressive synagogues finish Yom Kippur at 4.
Right, they finish early. Yeah, that's like, very American.
They don't wait. I mean,
right.
I once ran into a fellow. This is a true story. I ran into a fellow that owned a bunch of Chinese restaurants here in Southern California, and he tells me, I belong to a progressive synagogue in Arizona, but in California, wow. I said, what do you mean? He says, I was sitting in synagogue on Yom Kippur, and I'm sitting there trying to do whatever I do, and it's about 1:00, and all of a sudden I feel a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, 3 rows down, a guy is like mouthing to me, reservations for 6 at 4. Okay? 4:00 with one reservation. I go, what the hell? I mean, I'm trying to sit in Yom Kippur, and the guy 4 rows down is trying to tell me he wants his 4 families and then 6 people at 4:00 reservations for the Chinese restaurant. He said only in California that could happen. Yeah. So that's probably American.
Yes.
Nature.
Yes. I think so.
Also these newfangled services that people are doing.
Yeah.
Like, meeting in bars.
Yeah.
We're having like a different experience. We're not going to
go to
a temple.
Yeah.
We're going to meet in a bar, and we're just going to, just hang out and, just talk about things. So that's pretty American too.
Yeah. It's nice.
Well, we should
new age.
Can we just quickly? I mean, I know we're over an hour, but let's talk very quickly just about the day of Yom Kippur, like what a traditional, or I would say Orthodox day would look like. I mean, you would come to shul early, 9 or 9:30. You have the Yom Kippur liturgy, the machzor, and you're doing that all day. I mean, that's your day, right?
That's pretty much the day.
Yeah.
Now, if you're lucky, you come to shul by the shore where the rabbi is entertaining and is uplifting and upbeat.
Yes.
But if you go to where I was as a kid, it was like hell.
Right.
We started at 8:00 and we didn't break till about 3.
Yeah.
Went straight through. And then we had like a half an hour break, and then 3:30 we're back for afternoon and Nila,
right,
until 7:30. So it's a long day of prayer, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
First of all, if you're not going to sit the whole day, fine, you don't have to. Even if you come and you find something in the machzor, one sentence, one line, one prayer that talks to you, that's all it is.
Right.
That's all you need. If you could, I pray that. One of the worst, some things that a sermon, if it can affect one person, 5 people, 8 people, I'm glad.
You're right.
That's what I hope for. So it's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
It's not all or nothing. And then most of the people that come to shul by the shore, we are pretty light. So people come for an hour, some people come for 2 hours. So
I think if people want to, they will find something in the service to connect to. I mean, whether it's singing or whether it's the words of a prayer, and obviously you could read in English or Hebrew or whatever language you're comfortable in, and I could just say for myself, I mean, for the songs that are unique to Yom Kippur, like songs like Avinu Malkeinu, and there's a prayer we do 10 times over Yom Kippur called the Al Chetz, which is the regrets. Yeah. And we do like a little fist, like pounding on our chest, with each one. We do it 10 times over the holiday. It means something to me. I some of them I read in Hebrew, and then one time a day I try to read it in English, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Or, I just try to find those moments. Obviously my father's sermons, I listen to every single word and get so much out of it.
That's right. Say it again.
but really for me, I have to say the closing service, which is called Ne'ilah, which is the end of the day after we've fasted, 25 hours, we're thirsty, we're hungry, we're tired, you feel completely depleted, is probably the most incredible religious experience that I have all year. The last few minutes when the congregation is all together and we're calling out the Shema all at once. And then we're saying there's like a series of lines that we say all together. And at Shul by the Shore, there's hundreds of people in the room, but even if it's just a small congregation, there's something so magical about that moment when together we're saying, Hashem, God, we've done what we can today. We just, you have to accept us, right? Like take it and help us, save us, whatever it is. that moment of community is the moment of my deepest spiritual, like all year. And then in Chabad community, we break out in song and dance after. And it's so powerful watching these, the men in Arshel, the men dance, but watching my kids and my father and my husband and other men join in, and they sing a special Hasidic melody, and they do it. And it's like, you can't imagine how they're doing it. Like, they just fasted all day and they prayed all day, and they have the spiritual energy that just gets them, that uplifts them. And they have so much energy. It's so beautiful. And then you blow the shofar and the day's over. And I don't know. There's no feeling like it that I can describe.
I don't know. I just went black. I mean, I see you, but it went very dark, my screen.
That's fine.
Very, very dark.
We see you.
You could still see me now?
Yeah, we see you.
My mind just went very dark for some odd reason.
Yeah, you look fine.
But I just to reiterate this idea that you can find one little prayer. I mean, I'm just going to read one paragraph of a prayer on Yom Kippur. Oh, now it's back. This is so weird. Okay.
Okay.
There is a something going on in this room.
Yes, exactly.
I think I'm haunted.
You're haunted.
What do you call it? Exorcist. I am.
It's Hashem and the machine.
That's right. That's right.
To me, think about this for a second. This is what the prayer is. It's a standing prayer. So we try to open up the ark, get a little bit more serious. And it goes like this. Indeed, as the clay in the hand of the molder, who when he wishes, expands it, and when he wishes, contracts it, so are we in your hand. O you who remembers deeds of loving kindness. I think about that prayer just for a second, that, you know what, in America, we're so obsessed that we have to do everything and we have to be the best. And this prayer just talks to you, then just says to you, hey, you know what? It's okay. You know what? Have a little faith. You know, let God worry about some of the things. You don't have to do everything yourself, because we are just clay in the hands of the molder. Right. We're just a simple human being. He is powerful. And if we just thought about that, just that thought, and we could take something, an inspiration like that, and integrate it into our daily life and carry it further on Yom Kippur, dayenu. Yeah. To me, this is enough. There's another 8 paragraphs.
I love that prayer.
With the same idea is that you do not have to do everything by yourself. Just think of yourself as being helped by God. Jews have a difficult time relating to this. Yeah. I think Christians have a much easier time. You know, when they say, put your hands in the hands of the man, from Galilee. I mean, they get it. Yeah. They understand that you're in servitude. Jews have a difficult time with that whole concept of it, but it's real. Yeah. And even psychologically, it's so refreshing to know that, you know what, there's a power out there that is much greater than us. And if I tap into that power and allow myself to tap into that spiritual power, how much better my life is going to be than having to worry about that I have to do everything on my own. And if I don't succeed, it's me. Think of yourself as being molded.
It's true. It's really also, a lot of what we said today and what you always say in general about the stories we tell ourselves is really about shifting a narrative, and just starting a new story in our head and not making it all about our failures or the things that we wish or the things that we're jealous of, and it's really trying to have a story in our head that's a positive story, a story that makes us feel that there's hope and that we have, what we have to offer the world, and that we're worth it. I think so many people feel like maybe they're not worth it. And I think Yom Kippur is a good time to think about that, we are. That Hashem loves everyone. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but it's true. We don't say that enough in Judaism, that Hashem really cares and loves each and every one of us the way we are. We could be better, but
the key is
a little better.
Use Yom Kippur to your advantage.
Right.
Don't think of it as an obstacle. Think of it as an opportunity.
Right.
And if you think of it as an opportunity, you'll take advantage of an opportunity. But as long as you think of Yom Kippur as boring, solemn, long, irrelevant day, then you know what it is. It's long, boring, and irrelevant. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. I can't help you if you think of it that way. Yeah. But if you allow yourself to imagine, and that's another thing that we've lost, is imagination. Yeah. But what is possible And if we can do that, then Yom Kippur becomes a great, I think, like a springboard to a wonderful year.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have challenges. I mean, obviously we're going to have challenges. I mean, people are going to get sick, and people are going to be laid off, and people are going to, relationships will break up. Of course, I mean, I always say this at a family function, that I wish I could bless you that you should live life with no challenges. It's not realistic.
Right.
It's a silly wish. What I do want to wish you is the challenges that come your way, you should be able to handle them in a very noble, meaningful way, and use those challenges as a learning experience, not as a defeat experience. And the same thing is true about Yom Kippur. Think of it as an opportunity and not as an obstacle. And if we come in that way, we'll leave Yom Kippur that way.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to
end.
To end it. Yeah.
There's so much more that we can say, but I think that was I know.
Judaism is wider than the ocean,
no, it's
deeper
good.
than the sea.
It's good. We'll have for next year if I'm still talking to you guys next year and we're still doing that. And we can go into some of the other prayers and stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I think we have enough for today. I want to end off on just one note. I think people have to let go of the guilt. And I experienced that, for years when I had little kids and I wasn't able to like be in shul participating, because I was watching them outside or whatever, and I was always, kind of upset at myself saying I didn't say any of the prayers or I didn't do any of the things I was supposed to. I mean, obviously I always fasted and, didn't wear leather shoes and all that, but I didn't really participate in the service. And then your kids grow, but I was doing holy work by watching my kids, right? Or if you have to stay home with an elderly parent or whatever it is, like that's all holy work as well. And things change. Now I have no excuse not to sit in shul, right? I have no one who needs me. My kids are all fasting and more like they're doing better than I am. And so now I have an opportunity to do it and I want to take advantage of it, but I think people have to let go of their guilt. So just do what you can, do your best. And if you have any questions, you can always send us an email. What's our email address again? edJEWcation.
Oh God, you kidding
gmail.com.
Yep.
And you can even watch us on YouTube now. Thanks, Jay.
Yes. We're on video on YouTube.
Wow. Yes. Please subscribe. Yep. It means a lot to us. Subscribe to our Substack.
And yes, subscribe to Substack, leave comments, send emails. Before we go though, do you want to give a congratulations to
who?
To anybody?
Me?
To your new rabbi?
Oh my gosh. Yes, we have.
Oh.
yes. Thank you. I have a new of course I'm surrounded by rabbis. And so thankfully I have another son who's a rabbi now. My son Mendy graduated this week and I'm really proud of him because he worked really, really hard and studied for 2 years, for more than 2 years, but the last 2 years directly to pass these tests and become an official rabbi. And I'm really proud of him. And one of the things that he got as a gift was his teacher, the rabbi who gave my son smicha, as we call it, which is rabbinical ordination, created for them a chart that maps out the lineage of what we would call the Masorah, or the how it was passed down. How would you describe it, Todd? The tradition was passed down from Moses all the way. Who taught who? Basically from Moses all the way to my son Mendy. And it has the names of all the rabbis in a row. So if you imagine Mendy's name.
Kidding.
Yeah. So like the last name on the chart is Rabbi Menachem Mendel Sefrin, my son. And then the one before it is his rabbi. And then the rabbi who gave him smicha, and then on, all the way up through a chart that goes back to Moses. And so when I saw it, I got chills because I thought like, what a gift to give Mendy, this, to make him feel so significant, that he's truly part of the tradition that we have as the Jewish people. And I just very grateful. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mendy.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mendy.
Thank you. Okay, guys.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time.